I was born and raised in Illinois. That's where both of my parents were from. I lived there for the first 18 years of my life. I started out in the Chicago suburbs, but when I was very young, my parents wanted to get out of that city life because they were living in some pretty sketchy places. So they moved out of the city, and eventually we ended up in a very small town called Lee in north central Illinois, about 80 miles west of Chicago. So that's where I spent most of my childhood. My sister was also in college. I was ready to start college, and so the Chattanooga area seemed like a natural fit. We wanted to come to Southern, and so they actually moved to Chattanooga right when I was starting college at Southern. When I came to Southern, I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. I was homeschooled all the way through high school, and so this was actually my first classroom experience, except for driver's ed class. I had an interest in computers, and so I took some computer programming classes. And I liked that, but I didn't really feel like that was something I wanted to do for a career, sit around writing code 8 hours a day or whatever. But I got to the end of 2 years at Southern, and I still didn't really know, where I was going with my life and what I was going to do. And I thought, college is really expensive to just be kind of, stuck in this rut here. And so I decided I was going to take a break from college, and I wasn't going to come back until I had a plan for where I was going. So I took a semester off. And it was during that time off from school that I really started feeling like God was calling me to give my life in service to Him. And I can see how that call was already being developed in my life even before that, even through things that happened in my childhood and during those first 2 years when I was at Southern. But it was that time off, when I wasn't in classes and writing papers and taking exams and things, where I could just really kind of focus. And I was praying a lot. I was asking God to show me, what is it you want me to do with my life? But I remember it was the fall semester, and it was October, so this was only a couple months into the semester, and I'm already just feeling convicted. And it was just this sense that I couldn't shake, that God was calling me, and I needed to do something about that. One day in October, I walked into the chaplain's office at Southern just to talk to somebody because I had to get this off my chest. And it just turned, it so happened that the chaplain in the office that day was the assistant chaplain, Kessia Bennett. So I sat down with Kessia and I started telling her what was going on and what I was experiencing. And she listened to me and she encouraged me, she prayed with me. She shared a little bit of her own story and journey of feeling called by God. And so that kind of gave me the courage I needed to say, okay, I've got to take some action. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I just felt this was the path God was leading me on. So as I went through my education, at Southern, I got into the theology program, and I started taking those classes. God did begin to reveal, the direction He wanted me to go, and it was toward pastoral ministry. So I began discovering spiritual gifts I didn't know that I had. I really enjoyed, the things that I was learning, and I began to see how God was, preparing me and shaping me for pastoral ministry. So I was hired by the Georgia-Cumberland Conference my junior year at Southern. So that was in 2009. And I had 1 year of Southern left. We also got married in 2009. So we had met a couple of years before that. And we're dating, and we got married in 2009. And she had already graduated from Southern at that point. So she was kind of supporting us while I was still finishing school. And then when I graduated in 2010, the conference decided to send me straight to the seminary. So I went to Andrews and had 2.5 years there. And I really enjoyed my time in school. I love learning. I like the academic, university environment. But I will say by the time I got done with seminary, I was ready for something else. That's a lot of school, all those many years back to back. So when we came out of the seminary, it was kind of interesting that the conference thought they had a church they were going to send us to, and it didn't quite work out. And so there was a little bit of anxiety and tension, right where we just finished seminary. We're not sure where we're going. But eventually they did find a place, and it was the Bowman Hills Church in Cleveland. So we were there for 2 years working with Pastor Dwight Harrod, and really enjoyed those years. A good place to start ministry. At the end of those 2 years, the conference likes to give pastors a wide variety of experience as part of their internship. And so they asked us to go to Georgia, to the Warner Robins and Oglethorpe district. So we went there and were there for 2.5 years. After 2.5 years there, God began moving again. And we saw unmistakably, yes, it happened very quickly. We saw unmistakably he was calling us to another place. And so we came to the Ooltewah Church. So that was in 2017. God has just affirmed in so many ways that He has been leading, in our lives. He has affirmed that call to ministry. We've been through some challenges. Pastoring is not for the faint of heart. It's not an easy job, but God calls us to it, and He sees us through it. So I'm grateful for the ways that He has led us, even through those difficult and challenging times, and for the ways that He affirms that call to ministry. What the future holds, I can't say. In my journey and experience, I found that God doesn't show me the whole path. He doesn't show me the destination. He just shows me the next step. And I have to trust Him. I have to kind of take that leap of faith and take the next step, not necessarily knowing where it's going to go. But He has led us to the Ooltewah Church, and I'm happy to serve there in ministry for as long as He keeps me there.
Ordination is such a difficult subject for me because of the positive and negative things that have happened over the years, and just seeing where God has led us to a place where I feel like the whole church is affirming us. And ordination is just a celebration of God calling Matthew and everybody getting together and celebrating that. And I feel like that's a big step for His ministry in the future. We can feel all of the affirmation and move on strongly from there, whether it's staying at Ooltewah for a while or wherever God leads us.
Today is kind of, I don't know if I would say this is the end of a journey, but it's maybe a kind of a milestone in what has been a long kind of winding journey for me. I think the most significant thing about this day is the affirmation of my church family. Ministry happens in a local context. And so knowing that the people that I serve as a pastor are all cheering me on and surrounding me and affirming me and recognizing God's call on my life, I think that's very meaningful. That is an affirmation for me of God's call, to see that the church that I serve, that church family is surrounding me with that love and affirmation.